Hello my friends, this is part 2. You've seen the first video, right? Because that's the one with the foundation of how to form every major and minor chord. Okay, we all know the notes, right? And we all know the steps. F to G is 1 step, F to A flat is 1.5 steps, F to A is 2 steps, right? We all know that. The formula for forming a major chord is to start wherever chord you want. You want a G chord? You go from the G, you go 2 whole steps up, you got your B. From the B, you go 1.5 steps, you got your D. That's your G major chord. You can put those notes anywhere you want. Take the G from the bottom and put it on top. You still have a G major chord. Take your B from the bottom and put it on top. You still have a G major chord, just in a different position. Now, the formula for playing a minor chord. You start with whatever minor chord you want. You want an E minor chord? You start on the E, of course. You go 1.5 steps up. You reverse the formula. Before you went 2 whole steps up. Now you're going 1.5 steps. E to F sharp is 1 step. E to G is 1.5 steps. From the G, you go 2 whole steps up to the B. E, G, and B. That's your E minor chord. Eh? And then if you want to put the E on top, it's still an E minor chord. Okay, what chord do we want? Huh? An A flat minor? Whoa! It takes years to get to an A flat minor. We start at the A flat. Go 1.5 steps up. B flat is 1 step. B is 1.5 steps. So you got your A flat and your B. Call it A flat or G sharp. Let's call it G sharp. Your G sharp, your B, and from the B go 2 whole steps up. G sharp, D sharp. So it's G sharp, B, and D sharp is your G sharp minor chord, or your A flat minor chord. If you want to call it an A flat minor, it's A flat, C flat. You didn't think there was a C flat, did you? Instead of C, it's C flat, and E flat. That's your A flat minor chord, or your G sharp minor chord. Simple, huh? Way too simple. Now you can form every major and minor chord. You see a book with music in it? You see chords on top? You can play the chord in any position. And then on your left hand, you can play a bass note. If you're playing an E minor chord, play an E bass note. Either 1 down at the bottom or an octave. Both E's. Try that in the beginning. And if you want a B major chord, start at your B. Go 2 whole steps up for your major chord. From the D sharp, go 1.5 steps. Got your F sharp. That's your B major chord. Put a B bass on the bottom. There it is. I'm going to continue with these lessons. And we'll get into, see, after you know that, and you can improvise, you can do pretty much anything with music. Except read notes without the chords on top. I'm talking about charts, jazz charts, music charts that have the written chord on top. The G minor, the G major. We'll get into G minor 7th and minor 7ths and major 7ths. We'll get into that, okay? And then we'll get into some improvising. It'll become simple. It's simple learning it, but you're the one that's got to sit down at the keyboard and put it into your fingers. From what you're learning in your head and your mind, out into your fingers. So that you can entertain the world, entertain yourself. Enjoy life, huh? Let's enjoy the day, eh?